Hi, Professor Singer.
Hi Martin, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for taking the time to talk with us.
Happy to do that.
Yeah. In 1975, you came out with the book Animal Liberation. I know that many people, including me, have become vegetarian or vegan after having read the book. And now it's 4 decades since the book came out. What are the most important changes for the animals and how we view them that happened in this time, would you say?
There are many changes. Obviously, there is a different attitude to animals in much of the world anyway, certainly in Europe and North America and Australia and a few other countries. So people do now realize, I think, much more that we ought to be concerned about animals, and not only about the dogs and cats that we love personally, but also about all animals, including farm animals. And one outcome of that is that it's much more common to be vegetarian or vegan now than it was 40 years ago, when it was really something very peculiar to be a vegetarian. So those are important changes. But also we are starting to change the nature of the livestock industry in terms of the laws that require animals to have a little bit more space or to be able to turn around, which when I wrote the book was not at all even on the horizon, that we would actually be able to influence such a big industry. And I think it's a sign of the importance of the animal movement that it has transformed huge industries that have billions of dollars worth of turnover. And it's got to the level now where even the biggest corporations, just this week, Walmart in the United States, the largest single retailer of meat in the United States, announced some standards for animal welfare for its products. Obviously, these standards are not good enough. We have a long way to go, but it's a sign that we are making progress and having more influence.
It is very difficult with predictions, obviously, but I still would like you to guess what the future holds for us when it comes to animals. Do you think, for instance, that we will in the future have countries where veganism is the norm and not the exception?
Depending how far in the future we're willing to look, I think veganism could easily be the norm. But I think we have to talk about 50 years ahead. I don't think it's going to happen within the next decade. One of the things that could accelerate it is if we get better at developing plant-based alternatives to animal products. And then we will have both the ethical reasons relating to avoiding the suffering of animals and the ethical reasons relating to a more sustainable planet, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, which livestock is responsible for. So then we could get a convergence towards veganism.
So maybe 50 years, you say?
Well, of course, it's easy for me to say that. Nobody will, be able to say to me, "See, you were wrong," because I don't expect to be around that long. But I think we're heading in the right direction.
Do you also think that there might be countries where it's forbidden by law to eat meat in 50 years?
I think that's possible if you look far enough ahead. I think it's possible. I wouldn't say how probable it is, but yeah, it's possible.
What do you think the animal rights movement needs to do to accomplish liberation for the animals as fast and as effectively as possible?
The movement needs to keep working to help people to see that just the fact that animals aren't members of our species or aren't as able to, engage in abstract reasoning as we are, that's not a reason why one should inflict suffering on them. And needs to be politically active, push for laws that improve the treatment of animals wherever that can be done. And also, I think, support and encourage people to stop eating animals, to boycott animal products.
Would you advise us to focus more on the individual or the society at large?
Well, it's going to depend on the circumstances, whether you can actually influence the society at large and how you do that, and how much you can influence the individual. So I wouldn't like to make any kind of general answer to that question. I think people in different countries and different circumstances will have to decide where they can be most effective.
Suppose a person has decided to devote, say, 5 years to work for reducing the suffering and killing of animals. What advice would you give to that person on how to go about doing that?
Well, one of the things that I would like to encourage people in the animal movement to do is to try to evaluate the effectiveness of what they're doing. This is a movement that I've promoted more generally in giving to charity. My most recent book, just published a month ago, is called The Most Good You Can Do, and it talks about the way in which, in helping people in poverty elsewhere in the world, for example, we now have much better information about what works and what doesn't. And there's a website called Animal Charity Evaluators that I'm on the advisory board of, which is trying to do that for animal charities. So if you've got 5 years to spend working for animals, why not spend at least, let's say, the first 3 months trying to really look at what evidence there is about what is likely to be effective and what isn't, and spend some of your time doing that, and then doing the work that you think will be most effective.
Mm. And sometimes you say it's good to work to get money to give to organizations.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I mean, this is a kind of a paradox. People wouldn't think that by going into the finance industry, for example, you could be doing good for animals. Mm-hmm. But if you have the ability to get a job that will pay you a large amount of salary, and then you can live modestly and donate a large sum to the best of the animal organizations, the most effective ones, that is a way of doing good for animals.
And what about giving your time to be in a political movement for animal liberation?
That's obviously another possibility, and we have seen some breakthroughs in terms of political movements for animals. We've seen the Dutch Party for the Animals, which has members of the Dutch National Parliament. We've had some successes, I think, at the European level, and just recently in Australia, in the state of New South Wales, which is the state with the largest population, a member of the Animal Justice Party was elected to the upper house of their state parliament.
Right. Well, thank you so much for talking to us, Peter
Great.
Singer.
Good.
Good luck with your talk today.
Thank you. Thank you for coming here and listening.
Yeah.
Bye.